All right, joining me now, thrilled to do this because I don't think they've ever done a podcast together. It is the number one team at CBS for the NFL. Jim Nantz has been on many times. Tony's been on once before, but we have them now together. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, of course, the game of the year this Sunday, Bills Chiefs. They'll have it with Tracy Wilson in NFL Today, going up to Buffalo for it. So the guys are pumped up, and I am thrilled they're here. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well, Jimmy. You know, every Sunday is a podcast for us. So, but you do have the exclusive, and it's the right place to do this for the first time with you.
Yeah, pumped to be here, Jimmy. I'm excited.
Tony was on once before, but it was through Coors Light. He was all decked out in Coors gear. So I got Tony now just au natural today. So this is he's not promoting anything. So
Yeah.
we can just have a nice chat about football.
Yeah, I'm done promoting things completely, so I'm going the opposite direction now. I de-promote.
Let me start. I mean, I do think it's the game of the year this week with the Bills and the Chiefs. But let me go back two things before we get to that. Jim, it was hard not to hear how bummed you were Sunday, because I know before the season you were very pumped for Cowboys-Eagles. The Cowboys have collapsed, which we'll have to get into with Tony as the former quarterback there. How much of a bummer was it that it? And now the rating was still phenomenal, which is crazy, 24.6 million in a 34-6 game. But I could tell you were a little dejected Sunday afternoon.
Well, we had a run to start the year of great matchups, great games, including the play of the year, the Hail Mary in the Washington-Chicago game. But when the schedule came out in May, this was the headliner, was going to be Philadelphia-Dallas. It hadn't been on our air since 1993. So you never know how things are going to be once you get there. Things fall apart. I wasn't all that dejected. I was hoping for a much closer game. But in my mind, this was the game, because we have done it now 6 out of 7 times when Josh and Patrick have been matched up, and it's always great. It always delivers, and shoot, it's we're just a couple of days away, and I can't wait for what might be the first of 2 again this season. Regular season, postseason, bring it on. We're ready to go.
No. What were your thoughts on Sunday, Tony? As a former Cowboy, seeing no Dak, the game's a blowout. You and Jim are there. CBS never has that game, and then dud.
I think for me, the expectations were just tempered a little bit. I thought maybe with Parsons coming back, and sometimes there's a sliver of hope with when a quarterback goes down, the team's going to rally, right? They might play good, even for a small stretch sometimes. But adding, Micah back, and it felt like Custer's last stand. This felt like this was it, and it really was like the dam's going to break open if they didn't really win this game, or at least make it where, okay, we see positivity. And so I really thought it was going to be a closer game because of that. But the Eagles are really clicking on all cylinders. They are not quite what Baltimore is, but they are literally ascending right to that level where all of a sudden it's like, wow, they're good here, they're good here, they're good here. It was probably just one of the worst opponents they could have the Cowboys matched up against last week.
Right. I want to get to the Cowboys a little bit. We'll do it a little later, and obviously we'll touch on Bills Chiefs. But Jim, you mentioned it. I can't have you on here and not. I want to go through that Hail Mary from Jayden Daniels since you had it. Nice bit of luck there because CBS flexed that game in. It was supposed to be a 1:00 game. You guys brought it into the 4:25 slot. It wasn't a great game throughout, but then obviously finish of the season. Jim, take me through, as a play-by-play guy, what it's like calling the Hail Mary. And then, Tony, I want to know from you how hard it is to stay quiet when that's going on, which you did on that one. So, Jim, take me through the Jayden Daniels, that whole secret. Because, Tony, actually, you deserve a lot of credit. I wrote this. You called the setup perfectly, because when there was 6 seconds, you said, not time for the Hail Mary yet. So, take me through all of it, both of you on that. Jim.
Well, first off, I'm glad you said that, because that's where I was going. The whole thing gets set up by the preamble by Tony, not only foreshadowing the play before to get close enough to launch and heave the Hail Mary, but diagramming it, and then the play unfolds. And basically, the route that was run was right on his telestration. I mean, it was like to the inch. And it was a brilliant piece of analysis by Tony. So we were really clicking. We have been anyway for a long, long time. And it just felt so seamless. And now here's the last play, and you're just lost in it. It's the third time I've had a game-ending walk-off Hail Mary. You're lucky if you have one. I had one in the early 90s, San Francisco at Atlanta, and Billy Joe Tolliver threw it at the last play of the game in the end zone. Michael Haynes came down with it. And then all of a sudden, chaos ensues on the field. You know what's amazing is you see this pile of Falcons all over Billy Joe Tolliver. You see two players that are in the pile who were not in the play, but would go on to Canton, Ohio. You see Deion Sanders and you see Brett Favre, who was the backup.
Wow.
Billy Joe Tolliver. So they're in that little movie. And then in 2017, Green Bay at Detroit,
right.
Aaron Rodgers, last play against the Lions. And that was the last regular season game-ending walk-off Hail Mary until the Jayden Daniels play. So it's really sweet to have it. It felt like had we sat down to try to map out how we were going to handle that two-play sequence, we could have gone into a recording studio and play acted it and not done it any better than it actually came out live. And by the way, big credit to Jim Rickoff, Mike Arnold, our director. In that instant, the way you're cutting that and the way you're coming back and replaying and all that, it's a piece of art, and I'm really proud of what our crew did.
So as a play-by-play guy, are there certain things you have to keep in mind to do or not do during a Hail Mary? Is it a hard play to call? Is it an easy play to call?
Well, you get a lot of Hail Marys. You get a lot of those desperation throws at the end of the half, et cetera, et cetera. But on this one, Daniels was rolling to his right, spinning around, and I made note of the fact he's all the way back to the 30 now, and I am very casually calling it. It's very conversational, which is our calling card. The two of us are watching a game and we're conversing. And then I saw him get away from some pressure, and I realized he had enough now space from any rush defender that he could step into it, and I mentioned that. Now he's got enough room to step into it, and it's just kind of a casual. And so here it is, the Hail Mary with the game on the line, and you're lost in it. You don't have any idea how you would call it, and you identify, first off, the shock and awe that the ball is caught. It's caught. Oh, my goodness. This place is going crazy, and, you're just kind of lost in it. And you walk away, and we walked out of the booth in such a high. And between the booth and our escape, a lot of people were coming up to us in disbelief at the game. Some were into suites. You're going down the elevators with these folks, and they're all saying, "You guys, the way you called it, how did you?" I mean, I had no idea what I had said, or did Tony. So it's the way it's supposed to be, and you're just in that moment. It's a sweet, sweet feeling when you actually land one of those epic endings.
Tony, when Jayden Daniels is scrambling around, Jim says go all the way back to 30. Is it hard for you to lay low and let Jim handle it, or do you want to jump in and say, he's buying time or he should be going back? Give me your place in that call.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is I, naturally am a talker, so I think that's part of it. But the truth is, Jimmy's the best at those things, so it is just better when I don't say anything. And so whatever's best for us is best for everybody. It's like if Jimmy talked the whole game, I would have a good game. So it's kind of easy in that regard. Plus, It's just learning. You know what I mean? You just learn. And I've just improved and gotten better in some areas. And I think that's just part of, practicing. And
what areas do you think you've gotten better in?
Well, like that. You know what I mean? Just making it cleaner. Yeah. And but I mean, I think we're just clicking on all cylinders right now. I mean, this year has been real tight, and I think that it's been very fun to go out there, and we have such a good time doing it. And then it's just I feel like I'm going into a game being able to show the fans greater detail than they've heard, and provide that insight about their team, just some of the nuance. So I think they look forward to that, and then they look forward to the enjoyment of me and Jim's interaction. And I think that that's just easy, and it shows. And it, we're not rehearsing 8,000 things. We're talking. We're, like you said, we're going to dinner together. We're coming on a podcast together, and we actually really love each other, and it's really fun. It's like
you go ahead, Jim.
I just want to say, for part of that, I'm so damn proud of Tony. I've been doing it for a long time. This is my 40th cycle of doing events. I've got my 500th NFL game coming up a few weeks down the road, and I'm still evolving. I'm still learning new tricks at how to try to do it better. Tony is in year 8. So, all these things that, like you ask him, how is he getting better? I feel it more than anyone. I feel the progression. And he'll tell you. I mean, I think 4 or 5 weeks in a row, we've walked out of the booth. I give him a big bear hug and just, tell him how proud I am. I mean, there is a bit of a generation gap between the two of us. And I've tried to be a mentor to him, even though I kind of feel like we're, in some respects, the same age. Our kids are the same age. But I'm having a ball, and his preparation is really good. I feel it. I feel it in the way we're telling stories together. Feel it in every meeting that we're in. And the sense of timing thing, we all learned that in time, how it works best. I had, not until my 33rd year did I have the ultimate, how do you handle a moment like that? It took me a long time. Not that I would talk through these things, but when Tiger won the 2019 Masters, and I said the return to glory, I found out later that Nick Faldo and I laid out for 2 minutes and 38 seconds. I may not have been quite that patient 10 years earlier, 20 years earlier, 1 year earlier, whatever. It felt right. I had a lot of people say after that, damn, that 2 minutes and 38 seconds, that was the best you've ever been in your career. I said, I didn't say anything. They said, exactly. So right. You learn. And my guy here is the best, and he's evolving, and it's really showing. And I am tremendously proud to be his partner.
Tony, was there a conscious effort to do anything differently this season? Because you mentioned you feel like you guys are better than ever. And I don't know, I feel like maybe we're dancing a little bit around it. But let's, if we're being honest, you came out of the gate hot. Everyone loved you. Then there was a little bit of a backlash. Now that seems to calm down. People seem to be realizing you're very, very good at what you do. So I know you've probably have heard it. So let's address it head on and then, go from there.
Was there a question in there?
Have you consciously tried to do things differently this season in the booth?
No, I think you're always trying to, be the best version of yourself, and us be the best team ever. And it's like, I think we work really well together, and our brains are so fast. And for me, you want what's best for the fans. You want what's best for everyone, and it's just about making an enjoyable experience. So if the fans say they want this, I want to give it to them. So literally, that's all we're trying to do, and I think that's showing. I mean, some of the numbers CBS showed us and everything, it's been crazy. And maybe, we're lucky enough that people sometimes stay tuned on games like last week, and because they might enjoy the experience. You never know, right? Yeah. But I think it's a testament just that game's over, they're not annoyed, and they keep it on, and that's what we want to be.
I've covered this.
Sometimes I think, Jimmy, that like trying to answer, I've been asked that question a lot through my career. Hey, are you better at anchoring golf than you used to be? Whatever. It's kind of a hard thing to define because you do the reps, and just the reps and the experience and what feels right leads you there. So it's a little unfair for him to like sit and try to evaluate that. I can evaluate it. And whether he realizes it or not, he's growing. And every great broadcaster does that. He's a great broadcaster. He's going to have a long career doing this. And I love our partnership. Just look at the way on pre-snap. Nobody does that. He doesn't have to foreshadow exactly where the ball's going, but he can do that pretty much every single play and be accurate with it. But he sees whether it's zone or man to man, and he sees guys that are too far off the line of scrimmage, and he sees so much, and he articulates that, and there's an energy level and a sound to his voice that I think reels people in. So he is subconsciously growing. And we all are, and I've done it for 40 years. And I happen to think, if I went back and looked at shows from 5 years ago, I'd like to think my play-by-play, I can't identify it, but I think it's better. I know our chemistry's never been better, so we're in a good spot.
I've gone through this with Jim a million times. Just curious, Tony, does criticism bother you? Do you pay attention to criticism, or you just shut it out and it's noise? I mean, I've written this a million times. I've said it to Jim. I think a lot of what you got was sort of like Twitter pile-on stuff, but I don't know. Every now and then, maybe there is a legitimate criticism out there. I don't know, but what's your take on the criticism?
I don't think anything's just, black or white. I think there's always a lot of gray and everything. So to me, it's like, you can't be in this position. You can't play quarterback for the Cowboys. You can't be the lead analyst and expect it to be just sunshine and rainbows and leprechauns and chocolates. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like
it's true.
It's like all the greats are more criticized than loved on. It's just part of the job. So that comes with the territory. All right, you know that. But the idea is, I always say this, whenever you like somebody and they're on TV stuff, people who tweet or do something, they say it. And they're like, wow, I really like this guy. Well, I've never seen a guy who says it every week that guy's on TV. I mean, now you're just being kind of strange. So it's like, I really like this guy. Guys, I told you last week I really like this guy. But it's really fun to pile on, and people enjoy that part for the negative. They can do that each week.
Right.
Pick about it. So I think that's just human behavior, human dynamics. And if everyone says the same thing, well, then you should probably look at yourself a little bit and try and change. And if it's random people, it's like, sprinkling stuff in. That's just them, and let them enjoy themselves. It
is true, because because I do tweet a lot about the people I like, and inevitably I get backlash to that. Like, stop, expletive. Anyway, let me ask you that.
Say they like that you like somebody.
Right. That's how it goes on social media. All right, let me tell you guys about Underdog. Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Just call your shot by picking higher or lower on 2 or more player stats. Underdog is for everyone, so you can make a play with only $1 or go big and win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. Do you think Patrick Mahomes will rack up higher than 300 yards next week? That Mahomes will get lower than 300 yards next week? Cook up some entries for Shot to Win, real cash prizes, all NFL season long. Underdog also offers you vulture protection. Yes, that's right. If you select a designated running back to score a touchdown in your pick'em entry and that running back gets vultured, Underdog will rescue your entry. Also, there's tons of promos Underdog is offering. Underdog is the best place to play pick'em, so sign up and deposit now using the code Sports Illustrated to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Underdog's offering profit boost, discounts, and free picks as well. What I love about Underdog is 2 things. Well, plenty of things, but the 2 best, easy to use, great interface, simple, and then I just love the action, higher or lower. You don't have to worry about digging deep into doing research for this, that. It's higher or lower on stats. Patrick Mahomes passing yards, Christian McCaffrey rushing yards, Justin Jefferson receiving yards. Higher or lower. That's it. Fun and simple. And then, of course, great bonuses from Underdog. Download the app today and use the code Sports Illustrated to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the app today. Use the code Sports Illustrated to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama, Nebraska, and Colorado for some games, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, you can call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Let me ask you this, Tony. When Jim comes on, Jim and I, we love to nerd out on the schedule. We love to go through the schedule. Are you big on the schedule or you don't care and you're like, I'll show up and call whoever you tell me to call?
No, I like the schedule, but I definitely probably lose 10 minutes of the nerd out that you guys do because Jimmy does it on the road too. Like, okay, now listen up. Now I actually like it. It's fun to go through, but I do believe you can do it for an hour straight.
Yeah, he can. We've done it. And when you guys flexed, when you guys flexed in Washington, Chicago, I was like, I was gonna text you. I was gonna be like, I bet Jim. Yeah, I bet Jim likes that one. I'm curious. So I had Joe Buck on 2 weeks ago, and they've got Monday night still has 2 more Cowboys games, and I was trying to make the argument. Forget the America's team part of it. They're a horrific watch this season, and Joe made the argument. They're never going to flex the Cowboys because of what the rating always is. You guys ended up proving that this Sunday with 25 million people watching an unwatchable game. But Jim, no one gets into the schedule, knows the schedule stuff more than you. Could you ever see the NFL flexing the Cowboys out of a 425 or a Sunday night, Monday night? Or you think never going to happen?
I think there's an outside chance it could happen late in the year. It depends on what's available in the pool of games that are unprotected.
Right.
Getting into the stretch drive. And if Fox can only protect one game, but they've got 2 great ones, and there's one dangling there that has big playoff implications, I think that you'd have to consider. Same thing comes on our side. We have 2 great games. For example, December 15th, I don't know what the rest of the schedule looks like. We're going to have Buffalo at Detroit. That's going to be the next
great game.
Big game that could be the Super Bowl. Could be. And there might be a second game on our schedule that's great. We're going to protect, obviously, Buffalo and Detroit. I don't even know if that's a night that they have Dallas.
Right.
But I will say this. I was going to call Tony last night, but I had some folks over for dinner. I had to field 2 or 3 texts at the end of the night. Is Tony really going to be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys? So
I got a text saying congratulations.
So I always do a little prep for these interviews, believe it or not. And when I Googled Tony Romo last night, the first thing that came up, the first 3 things were like Tony Romo to coach the Cowboys. I was like, and I did not even put it on my notes to bring up because it's so absurd. But
I'm going to tackle him if he tries to walk out of that booth. He's going to get blindsided. It might cause another injury, but I'm not going to let that happen.
So here's what's interesting. Jim will love this. I looked it up there, week 15, when you have the Bills and Lions. There's 2 Monday night games that week. The Sunday night is decent, Packers, Seahawks, I guess. But one of the Monday night games is Falcons, Raiders, which ESPN can't be happy about. But they will not be getting Detroit, Buffalo, I'm sure, from CBS on that one.
No chance.
Yeah. So you guys have Bills Chiefs this week, which I want to dive into. Thanksgiving, you have the Lions and the Bears. Jim and I have a history with Thanksgiving, which we can get into. But that should be, even with the Bears having some troubles, should be interesting. But I'll tell you, the week in between that, Jim, what game are you guys calling? Because I looked at it. And I only looked at it because I had Mad Dog on last week, and he said, and he's another one with the schedule. And he goes, do you see what CBS says week 12? I said, I have no idea, dog. And then I looked it up. I don't want to, I'm not going to say anything negative here, but not a banner week for the CBS schedule, week 12. What game are you guys doing that week?
Off.
We are off.
I love it.
Break.
We're
off. Get a break.
That's how bad the schedule is. That's all I'm going to say.
No.
Yes,
that is Jimmy. We're the next week. I don't know why we didn't ask for it. Yeah, we got 2 games the next week. We got Chicago and Detroit on Thursday and on Sunday. It's just a football feast from Thursday to Monday.
Right.
But on Sunday, the late afternoon national doubleheader game is going to be ours, and it's going to be Philadelphia, Baltimore. So we're going to double up the next week.
Great game.
And, I think the main game for CBS, because it's the Chiefs, will be Kansas City at Carolina.
Right. Yes.
Week 12. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Thank your bosses spared you from Patriots, Dolphins, Titans, Texas, and Chiefs, Panthers. So
where are we going week 14? That's the question.
Yeah.
Week 14. Let's see. I think you will go. All right, so that's the.
It was supposed to be Jets at Miami, but I guess it still could be.
I think that's where you'll still end up. I think Miami might make a little run here with Tua back, so you still might end up there.
And they've got Vegas this week, and they got New England back-to-back home games. So they could be 5-6 really quickly.
Did they win on Monday?
The Dolphins did, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the score of that game?
23-15.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a difference too between a team that may have a bad record and a team that's bad to watch. The Dolphins are not bad to watch. The Dolphins are fun to watch because of Tua.
Especially if they get on a run here, you feel like they got a chance to make some noise.
Right. But then there are teams like the Titans are just bad to watch. So it's a double-edged sword there. All right. Bills Chiefs Sunday. CBS is going all out, sending the NFL today to Buffalo, which is, as good an atmosphere as there is in the league. Are you going to play up the unbeaten theme? Is that a big deal even in week? What week are we in here? 10, 11? Is that like a big
11.
theme to play up the unbeaten for the Chiefs?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah, sure.
And
that's a lot of wins in a row. I mean, you can't tell me they can't go 8-0. They just won how many in a row right now, Jim?
15. We were there for their last loss, which, Jimmy, I don't know if you remember it. It was one that you would never think they would have lost. They lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day. We were there at Arrowhead. And Coach Antonio Pierce told us the day before the game, I know how to beat these guys. And they went out and did it the next day. Even though I believe they didn't even have a complete pass until the fourth quarter, they beat the Chiefs. But since then, KC's won 15 straight, with 12 of them being one-score margins. So you never know. It's
Tony,
being undefeated. Though. Let's face it.
As the former quarterback, tell me, I mean, that crowd Sunday in Buffalo will be bonkers.
Yeah.
Give me any harder place to play on the road in a big game like that. 425, Chiefs come in undefeated. That crowd will be rabid. Is there anywhere more difficult for a team to play going on the road than Buffalo these days?
That's right at the top, I would say. What's funny is Arrowhead is still really difficult. That takes a big game there. They're almost like the Chicago Bulls fans, where they're so good. Yeah. They know when to time the electricity, but they're great at the beginning. But I expected them at this point to be a little more lulled, but they still keep it going. And Buffalo's constantly like that. To me, it's like when teams are really good and their fans are excited, like the Commanders fans, that place was rocking. Remember, Jim? Like, I hadn't heard that there in quite some time. They're starved for that atmosphere to get behind their team. So I think those are probably three of the top ones. Seattle back in the day was a monster. I mean, going there in 2014, I mean, we ended up beating them because we were a really good football team. We were like one of the first teams to do that during their heyday. But it was just like, I remember being like, I literally can't hear the guy like next to you. That was insane. And I always felt like Minnesota in the playoff game, they could rock. Green Bay was really loud when they got all the extra height on it when they get going. That might be one of the loudest, sneaky ones that people don't realize, because it used to be quiet. Remember, Jim, that bowl at Green Bay? There was just that bowl. And then they added, then they added, then they added. And then it's like the tallest thing.
It's contained. It stays inside the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me, there is a little bit of a narrative out there this year that Mahomes is not playing as well as he has in past seasons. Meanwhile, here they are undefeated. What have you seen from Mahomes this year, Tony, as they go into this one?
We can look at stats all day, right? If you throw more interceptions than you ever have, or if you throw less touchdowns, people are going to assume that's this, right? Well, that could be 4 different throws. It's like the rest of the time it could be like 4 of those could be touches, 4 interceptions instead. So bam, that goes from 10-6 to 10, or 6 to 10 almost. But to me, when you look at it, I think teams have actually defensed them. I'm just going to move this over real quick, see if I can see both of you. So teams have done a really good job. So Jim mentioned it. The Raiders last year when they beat them did as good a job as anybody at rush lane integrity, containing Mahomes. And Mahomes has been maybe the best ever at creating, whether that's with his legs to get a first down or creating to get to a new platform spot to throw a ball, or that gives someone more time to get open. Off-platform throws, his ability to be off his left foot, back, boom. Well, all those things aren't him standing right here in the pocket. They're moving. And so I think what's happened is teams have tried and have done a little bit better job of keeping that integrity of not allowing him to have lanes like a running back. And so now he's in the pocket and he's trying to get out. He wants to. He doesn't need to, but he wants to. And so when and the guys who do it the best, who can still create pressure while maintaining those, they give themselves a chance to win. And the guys who don't do that, they lose. And they play good. I think more teams have done a better job of that. And that's how you have to play them.
Is there, when you go into this game, Jim, do you have to be conscious not to overdo it on the quarterbacks, or because this is the quarterback matchup, they deserve 90% of the conversation because this is the two best, in the game right now?
Well, it's hard to not kind of focus your attention on the two of them.
Yeah.
One of them's on the field at all times. So I will say this, that you were trying to set up the game and you talk about the undefeated records. The reality is both of these teams are going to be in the playoffs. The team that loses, they're still going to be in the postseason. I mean, the Bills got a 5-game lead in that division. Kansas City's going to be in the playoffs. Now it's a question of, can Buffalo beat them here and get a little bit closer to a possible home field advantage in the playoffs? They haven't been 8-2 since '93, so they've got a lot of good things going. I think that the other thing, kind of as a sub-story here, is that, Kansas City's winning, but to go undefeated, we know how rare that is. I'm going to take you back. We made a little allusion to this on Sunday. We're in a production meeting in Las Vegas before the Super Bowl, and Patrick and Travis came in together. We asked them if they win this game, the stature, the history, the context of it. And it's the first place, and I don't see Kelsey talking about it a lot, but he said, we want to win here, and then next year we want to be the first ever three-peat and go undefeated. We were sitting across from one another like, whoa, man, okay. Step one is to beat the Niners, which they did in overtime. But he's already talking about next year going undefeated. It hasn't been easy being undefeated. They find ways to win. But they get past this game. They got 10 wins. They only have 7 to go. And you can look at the schedule. There's a lot of extremely highly favorable W's in there for the Chiefs. You're gonna favor them every week anyway. So I don't want to get carried away with it, but that's a story that merits attention. And on the Buffalo side, they're playing to still make a run at that 1 seed. They would like to get back to playing this team too in the postseason, not in the divisional round. We had that epic divisional game a few years ago at Arrowhead, the 42-36 game. And yes, they previously did play earlier in the quarterbacks' careers. They played a championship game at KC, and we were there for that. But that divisional game last year was a divisional game, albeit in Buffalo. You kind of keep thinking that's a matchup you're going to see for the winner going to the Super Bowl. So all that kind of plays into this game. How do
Tony, go ahead, Tony.
Well, to Jim's point, while you're talking, I just thought of something right there. This is what happens between me and Jim all the time, where I was like, boom. When he talks something Spurs and Traina, I talk the same with him. But think about this. Here's a good storyline for you this week. I think this is bigger than we think, because if Buffalo loses, I don't think they're catching. They'd have to be 4 games different for going on, not 3 or 4. So if KC wins this pretty much gives them the 1 seed. We'll give them, especially with their schedule. Well, if Buffalo's 2, that means Buffalo's got to go through Baltimore to get to KC.
Which is,
So whoever doesn't get the 1 seed has to see Baltimore first. So that's what you really don't want to do. You don't want to have to see Baltimore, especially in Baltimore, I guess. But
Buffalo knows that, having gotten trampled there already this year.
Yes, Baltimore's probably might be the favorite if the defense can do anything, because they have the most dynamic offense since probably KC in 18 in some ways. So to me, that's as big as anything. Is don't run into it. Like, whoever has to go that route, way harder.
Tony, do you think Chiefs players they know their schedule the rest of the way, and they're the unbeaten thing's a thing. I mean, I'm looking now because Jim mentioned it. After this game, they play the Panthers and Raiders.
Yeah.
So if they win in Buffalo, they're set up. Then they play a home game against the Chargers, and then they play the Browns. So they will, if they get through this week, I think the unbeaten thing now becomes
You've got them 14-0 based on what you just said.
Yeah,
and then the Chargers, right?
Then they finish up with the Texans at home, and then at Pittsburgh in the last week of the season.
Wow,
that's not the last week. They have a
That's the
game on week 18. Yeah,
right. Week
Chargers
17, right? Oh, at Broncos the last week of the season. Well, you'll be in Pittsburgh week 17. There's no doubt about that.
They're getting to 14, 15. You can almost give them that, right? Like
this is the week. Yeah.
But,
Tony, I want to circle back on something here because we mentioned the Cowboys earlier. I'm just curious. I wanted to ask you, as a former Cowboy quarterback, do you care about the team? Are you upset that they're having this bad of a year, or you're detached from it and you don't really have a connection anymore? What are you feeling on one of the main storylines of the season has been the sort of collapse of the Cowboys.
Every year is a new year, right? So everyone wants to pretend like you just pick up where we left off. But I mean, you lose coaches, you lose players, you lose depth, and an injury happens, and all of a sudden it's 5, 6 different dudes and a new coach calling plays. It's just like things are very different. And so I think continuity is key. Kansas City said that in coaching staff and with the players for so long. And it's so undervalued how deep and nuanced you can get into your system. You know, it's like me and Jimmy. You start to just feel and know. It's like you can, bam, these things flow and switch and do things all the time, right? Can't do that without having all the reps and experience with it. With Dallas, Dallas is, you know, I love Dallas. I played there forever. At the same time, I love a ton of places now because you meet people, owners, players, coaches, and you see the guys who care so deeply and want to win, who work really hard, and you just root for those guys because I want them to be passionate. You know, I didn't like when there's teammates that kind of half-weight it, they kind of gave effort, but to me, I'm rooting. You know, I love the Jones family. You know what I mean? I love so many people working in that building. So it's sad and hard to, you know, for those people, because I know how devastating it is when you lose in the NFL. It hurts not just you, it's kids, your wife, your whole family. It affects them. Like, you know, the McCarthy family, that's like a killer here. It's like any family who has a coach. Let
me ask you guys a couple of fun, lighthearted things here before we wrap up. It seems like a lot of broadcasters have these bizarre food quirks. Al Michaels has never eaten a vegetable. I think Ian Eagle has never had soup or I don't know. Ian's got something. There was the famous story about Jim with the picture of the toast, which he says is not true. So, Tony, we don't know anything. Do you have any food quirks, Tony?
Me and Jim don't eat. We literally, like we talked about this a couple weeks ago, we actually, it's like game day. It's like, why am I stuffing my face playing a football game?
Jim talked about getting a hot dog at halftime this week, right? If I'm not mistaken.
He's keeping like blood sugar up almost. You know, I mean, he's not really eating. But
what do you mean you don't eat? What you don't eat?
Like there's like a little hunger that you want to have. Like if you ate, like in football, it's like 4 hours before, or 3.5. You eat exactly at this time, and you get to that stage where you're like not full. You're starting to get to their side, but you're not eating throughout that game. You know, because it keeps like your mind.
But I'm talking about away from the game, just everyday life. Do you have food
I eat
quirks?
Everything. Yeah, I eat absolutely everything. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Jim take out the card with the toast?
The card with the toast?
Tony doesn't know this story. There's a famous internet lore that Jim carries a photo of a piece of toast the way he wants it cooked in his wallet. When he goes to a diner, he shows the waiter or waitress, this is how to cook my toast. Jim has come on and said that's not true, but everyone still thinks it's true. I think it's a great historical story that I've wanted to adopt myself.
He does carry a card, Jimmy.
No, come on. You know better than that. That thing had a very short lifespan. It was all a ruse. But I can comment on his food quirks if you want.
Yes.
Hold on.
Good.
Jimmy's card is like actually a card for somebody else. If you remember, don't you have a little thing in your pocket at all times? For McKay, Summerall, or?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's for the Super Bowl. Yeah. I carry a football card, like a Topps card with Pat and Jack Whitaker.
Yes. The toast is better.
Give me Tony's pocket right here. So I know people are going to say, "Oh, Nance, you're getting carried away," but I love those men, and they were great to me with a lot of others.
I love the story
I
about
have them right by my heart when I'm going those games, baby. I want them there. I'm repping them.
I love the Give me Tony's food quirks.
Well, one thing he's saying here about not eating on game day, the great Phil Simms, my friend that I had the pleasure of being with for 13 years, I noticed he wasn't eating a lot on game day. And I asked him about it. He says, "You never want to eat." He says, "Your brain works faster when you're starved. You think faster. When you eat, it slows your body system down." I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
So, kind of, again, Tony's the natural. These things kind of come to him, and he kind of moves with those currents and makes the right decisions, whether it's what he's doing subconsciously, eating wise, or how he's getting ready and executing a game call. But Tony is the funny thing about Tony. He's Don Meredith. For people that are still around, I remember Don Meredith. He's unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that's something really charming about that. So how does it relate to food quirks? We do love to eat at great restaurants, and we're never in a hurry. And we laugh a lot. We'll have a little bit of wine, nothing crazy, but we can go into the finest restaurant that any NFL city gives us. And Tony a lot of times goes off menu. It's, instead of having whatever the house specialty, some exquisite preparation, he'll look up at the waiter and say, "Can I get a hamburger? Can I get a hamburger and fries?" So, there's a little unpredictable.
That's relatable. That's relatable.
It is relatable. He's a man of the people. So,
Tony, where's the best burger?
Oh man, Bel Air Country Club's got a good one.
Now, what do you ever do the fast
dinners there early in the season with the whole crew? We had 3 LA games the first 4 weeks.
Jimmy took us to the new
clubhouse.
Amazing.
And Jimmy, I just want to qualify because my oldest daughter has already been all over me. She was in the booth for Washington-Baltimore game. She saw me downing a dog at halftime, which, again, I never finished the dog. That was my rules. 3 quarters, put the rest in the garbage. She saw me take out a dog and says, "Dad, that is gross." So
why can't you finish it? Why can't you finish it?
I didn't want to ever feel like a glutton, so I would cut it off at 3 quarters and throw it out. But now 1 bite and I'm done. So I'm making my daughter happy, even though she didn't even know it until now.
Now, let me ask you this question. I had Joe Buck on. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and Joe mentioned that Troy sometimes gets annoyed with Joe when Joe's quote unquote on time. Joe was saying they have like a 4:30 call for the car for Monday night. Troy's there at 4:10. Joe doesn't come till 4:30. Troy gets annoyed. You guys have talked a lot about your partnership here today. Do we have anything where Tony gets mad at Jim, Jim gets mad at Tony, or whether it's in terms of like the scheduling or your Sunday routine? Do we ever have a little bit of an issue with anything?
I think we have issues with anything. I mean, the biggest thing is like personalities. Like he's really on time. I'm always slightly late. So like in general, like ADHD, late people, my wife, me, it's similar to Jimmy in some ways. We're like, our whole system, we have multiple cars. So Troy and Joe need to get 2 cars. They'll be fine. It's like, but I mean, we always do. Like the thing is we both care. And if you care about people, you like them, it's like, there's really not that much to get mad or frustrated about. I mean, it's easy.
All right.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there. The thing I miss a little bit that when you asked the question, it made me long for bringing it back. But in the early years, Tony used to belt out some U2, some Bono music in the booth, literally within 10 seconds when we're live before tens of millions of people. And there's one song that he and Tommy Brewer, his wingman, were fixated on. And now I can't get the song out of my head. It's called Red Hill Mining Town. And there's Bono in that song has to really like reach down deep to hit a couple of notes. And Tony was doing the same thing, trying to hit The line is I'm hanging on.
Red Hill.
Red Hill mining town, and I would think, I'm not sure this is great for his voice, but it's really a strain to get there. And at the same time, I've got Rick off in my head saying, "Guys, 10 seconds," and Tony's over there with singing a harmony with Brewer.
Is that a way to get you pumped up for the broadcast, Tony?
Yeah, I think we should bring it back this weekend.
Here comes the part. This is where we'd be in the booth. And I'd look over and
get it closer to the mic.
Okay.
Hit the note.
Well, this sound's fading out, unfortunately. You know what they do? You need to get Tony to do that before the game and have CBS just take video and put it on their socials, and everyone will pick that up.
There's a lot there for people to love. I'm telling you, it's an amazing scene. And, hey, he's gotten me involved.
I got one last question for each of you.
Okay.
All right, Tony, I just got to ask if you can confirm a story that was told on this podcast once.
Probably true.
It was back when Troy signed with ESPN, and we were talking about how the money for you guys exploded, and you were sort of the first to get the monster contract. And I asked Tony if he ever I asked Troy if he ever thanked you or anything.
Yes.
And he told a story where you guys were in a restaurant or something.
Yeah.
And Troy was sitting at his table, and you walked by, and all you did was say, "You're welcome." Can you confirm or deny?
That's what Troy said.
That's what Troy said.
You probably didn't hear the first sentence.
What was the first sentence?
I have a hard time believing that I've ever done that, Jimmy. Have you ever seen me just lay the mic drop with a little cocky statement? Now, don't get me wrong. Me and Troy are good friends, so it's like you can make a joke, and I might have. But Troy texted, it was so nice of Troy. He texted me right after that. And, I didn't know this world behind the scenes, because there can be jealousy in anything, right?
Yeah, sure.
Well, our world, these guys, like he said, thank you so much, because I help, everyone else get up and pay. And so that was great. So it's like we all support each other. That's why I'm like, go be great. You know what I mean? But Troy made me really comfortable. He was the first one. And I thought that was really meaningful, and meant a lot to me, just because he was honest and genuine, and there's no grudge or anything. It just disarms. And I thought that was wonderful.
Jim, for you, last one. This is the first time we've spoken since the tournament this year. First year you didn't do the Final Four. Did you miss it?
Oh, listen, I made 100% the right decision. I got to enjoy the tournament in a different way. I took my son to a first weekend site and watched my Houston Cougars. I went to the Final Four and had a ball. And I sat back and enjoyed every minute of it. Did I miss it? Of course you miss it, but I enjoyed the time that I had more than I missed and longed for it. Tony, we couldn't hear your thing. Maybe I can pull this off and we can get one little version of this from you. Forget Bono. Let me see that. Can you hear that?
Nope.
It's not coming through for some reason.
All right.
Do it Sunday. Post a video. Tony doesn't post. He's got Instagram. He's got Twitter.
You'll have to cut that out.
It's all right. I appreciate you guys doing this.
Want to try and sell themselves. I'm trying to get less.
I know. I know. It's a crazy world with that. It's a crazy world.
I'm just fine with my family and friends in general.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, so we've got Bills Chiefs this Sunday, 4:25, game of the year. Off week for Jim and Tony after that, and then Thanksgiving, Lions and Bears. 2 years ago I said no more Lions ever on Thanksgiving. Jim put me in my place. He said, Jimmy, you're an idiot. It's going to keep going. And now here we are where they're going to be in the Super Bowl this year, probably. So.
And I mentioned him, Tony. You might remember this. I mentioned him on the Thanksgiving Day game.
Yeah.
Give us a little review of how I got that into the game, Jimmy.
You had said so. Who did they play? They were playing someone. Oh, they were playing Buffalo, and I said the game's not going to be competitive. It's not like people think it's cute that the Lions play on Thanksgiving. It's not cute because by halftime the game's unwatchable. And you said if the game's within a touchdown of the fourth quarter, I'm going to mention you. And I think Detroit scored right at the end of the third quarter. So I said I'm like, holy shit. I said to my family, you got to pay attention, jack up the volume. And the start of the fourth quarter came, and Jim did his, typical Jim Nantz getting into the storyline narrative and said, a lot of people, Detroit, Thanksgiving, I did a Jimmy Traina's podcast this week and talked about the tradition of the Lions on Thanksgiving, and that was it. And my phone went nuts after that. So,
what's funny? I can remember 3 or 4 guys that we've mentioned. We don't normally do so, but obviously that means he's got a close relationship and we both love you. But it's almost like you've been one of the supporters of us for a while, right? Well, I think that me and him love doing that for people. I think he did that because in some ways to say thank you. And I think, that's obviously a really cool, special way. But I like when people like in that it's almost his way in some ways of saying I love you and I thank you, buddy.
I greatly appreciate
it. The thing is, you actually see it, though, I think a lot tighter and better than other people. And even whether it's positive or negative, it's just logical. Do you know what I mean? And there's just real aspects of it that actually make sense, whereas it's not just blah or awesome.
Right. I listen, my number one thing is to be fair. I always try to be fair. And what's the weird position I'm in is that I work for Sports Illustrated, but I come at it more fan than media person. And so as a fan, my number one thing I've gone through this with Tarico a bunch of times, and he did a great job with me. I don't annoy me during a game. Just don't annoy me. That's so like when the whole Kelsey Taylor Swift thing first started happening, the first time NBC had a game, they went nuts. They were showing her every 5 minutes. So I wrote a column ripping them. But Tarico was nice enough. He came on and he's like, I'm surprised you had me on after we went nuts about Taylor Swift. And, he got it. You guys have Taylor Swift this Sunday. Now, what's the game plan going in?
You don't blame me or Jim. You blame Rick off and Arnold.
And Arnold and Mike and Arnie. Yeah.
This was my thing. If you're going to show her after every catch, I want to see her when he drops one. They don't show that.
I've got all my Taylor nuggets already lined up for the game.
Yeah.
Takes us there.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, Jim. We should do that. That would be good TV if you're going to show it, but not that much, right? We don't want to show it.
He doesn't drop that many, but
I've got her record. I've got the Chiefs record when she attends games. She's also got family from the Buffalo area. Her grandparents lived in the Buffalo area. Great-grandmother owned a music store in Buffalo. I'm loaded up. So don't worry, folks. I'm discussing with this information now.
If you go too far, then I got to write a column the next day saying,
don't worry. I
don't go too far.
Jimmy Traina, but we're ready to go. Yeah. She's 15-3 when she goes to a game. She's
you know how big that was when the first time we did the game with them. That was a discussion how much to show her or not, right?
Yeah.
I'm always like football 100% and maybe her 1%, which would be too many percentage points, obviously. But with her, we showed that stat, Jim, because right then they were not playing great and they had lost. She hadn't attended every game. And we showed the stat that he hadn't lost since whenever she attends a game. And I think that flipped because the opinion was going one direction pretty quick that this, could be going down a path of, the Beatles, Yoko Ono or something, not like that, but it was like going that direction. And then when the national window shows a stat that says, nope, they win when she's here all the time, it's like, oh, well, that narrative is shut down. Yeah. So I think that really calmed down right there at that time. So whenever a national network shows stuff, you can influence public opinion. It's amazing.
Listen, it is a tough tightrope because you have to show her. You have to.
Yeah.
But that NBC game, like Isaiah Pacheco would get a 3-yard run and NBC was cutting to her in the booth. What are we doing? But you have to show
balance, right? You just want to have that nice balance for knowing it's like, okay, she's a story. Let's get the story. We try and do that.
And listen, you guys know this. You were there. The game he had in Buffalo in the playoffs was off the charts last year. So that, I get it then. That was his best game of the season last year, if I'm not mistaken, Kelsey. Yeah.
Yeah, he did the bow and arrow right up to the booth and his brother. You might remember his brother hanging out in the suite too. Yeah.
I think that got his TV career started.
Yeah. There you go. It's changed public opinion. It shows like you get a ton of direction of however you want people to think about you. You're the fun-loving Chris Farley guy now.
It's a great comparison.
It's a great comparison. Making those split-second decisions in Mike Arnold.
Yeah.
What he's doing. He does it right, and she should be on there. People want to know what she's doing, and I think he has just the right amount of feel for it.
You think we get to 30 million viewers Sunday? I think we do.
Boy, that's a lot.
I think we do. It's a game of the, and they cleared out the window. I mean,
100%.
there's nothing.
Yeah. I would say yes. I'm going to bet yes.
All right. I'm with you on that. So there's no disagreement this time around.
And it's cool that the pregame show is going to be there.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Other than some Thanksgiving Day games back in the Brent days when they go to like Dallas, really it's not a regular season thing. There's not a lot of history there for it, and this game merits it. So it's all lined up.
Well, enjoy it. Buffalo Sunday, 425. Jim and Tony, Tracy Wolfson. Go ahead, Tony.
Question for you guys: who wins, Mike Tyson or Jake Paul?
No.
I think the Bill. Tony, I think the Bills win. I think the Bills win.
No, I said Mike Tyson or Jake Paul.
Oh, Mike, you couldn't pay me to watch that fight. Is it a real?
It's on Netflix.
Is it a real fight though, or is it like a?
100%. It's on.
Oh, it's real.
Yeah, it's going on as a professional record. So it's like Roy Jones 4 years ago wasn't. That was a.
Oh, it's not like a WWE type of thing.
No, this is 100% going on the record. Like this counts like Evander Holyfield, like on his record actually.
Am I a party pooper? Like that's just too much of a freak show for me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the advancements in modern science and everything.
When is this fight?
Friday night.
Oh, Friday night.
But I grew up loving Mike Tyson, so
did I. I mean,
Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So they're excited. I'm excited. Welcome to being a dad.
I will never forget the night he lost to Buster Douglas. That was like one of those nights you knew where you were as a sports fan.
Yep, I know where Jimmy was.
Right. So Tony's pumped up for Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
Yeah,
I'm pumped up for Hutch's on Friday night because we're having dinner together. One of the great restaurants, sneaky great restaurants in America, in Buffalo. And that's a tradition unlike any other when we get there. So, well, that'll be the pre-fight meal for you.
Got it.
On Friday.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this.
Jimmy.
Enjoy the game and the rest of the season. Tony and Jim, maybe we'll get you on during the playoffs when the big tournament starts.
Before the next Buffalo Kansas City game?
Would be nice. I don't get I know there's backlash. Some people have like Chiefs fatigue. I don't have that. I enjoy it. I like to see the greatness. I still think, I think Mahomes is still the best player to watch every Sunday. I think the Lions are like a close second there with Kansas City. But the story of the Chiefs, Kelsey, Mahomes, I have zero Chiefs fatigue for me personally. But
I'm the same way. I think it's like Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
Yeah, 100%.
As soon as you have to knock off the best and they get to be there as the standard, the whole thing is better. These games get built up more. It's like it's just a good thing in sports when a dominant thing is always around instead of
think about how great a Chiefs Lions Super Bowl would be. The Lions, the downtrodden franchise who've never won anything, trying to knock off the three-peat. I mean, I feel bad. You guys don't have it. That's a Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Fox deal this year, but that storyline of a Lions Chiefs would be tremendous.
Nantz has been saying that for a couple of years. The Lions have a huge draw if they got to like a Super Bowl or something. Do you remember?
Jim's been on the Lions correctly for 2 years now, so I got to stand down.
We got two big ones coming up with them. I can't wait to do the Thanksgiving game, and again that Buffalo Detroit game will be a monster.
That will be huge. So, yep. Looking forward to it.
Kansas City, you got to beat them up. It's the only way. It's not easy to do, but that's how the Raiders did last time someone did it.
All right, guys, enjoy it. Thanks.